No, can you hear me? Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining. What a great turnout for such an awesome topic today. So we are super lucky to have David Sakamoto here from Cisco. He is the head of customer success for Americas, and we'll be talking with you all about a topic which I think is a super passionate one for folks, and I can tell by the turnout, seems like that is definitely the case for all of you here. So I will let David take it away. Thank you.
Awesome. Hello. Hello, round of applause. Let's wake up. It's late. I like that back. Thank you, in the back. Whoever gave you that. All right, this is going to be interactive. So how's everyone doing? Are you doing well? You guys energized? Ready to go? Who's excited about culture? Awesome. Who's passionate about culture? Who's passionate about culture? All right, let's push off the other sessions. Who's passionate about culture? All right. Awesome, thank you. Culture. I gotta get off stage. Culture, it's on all of your websites. Industry leaders talk about it. Your leaders talk about it. You've probably talked about it. But not many people give it the effort it deserves, or feel it's too ambiguous, it's vague. I can't measure it. Or don't know where to start. So I ask, I get off the stage, I may fall, but, okay. Or during the presentation, I ask you to think about two things. One, what aspect of your culture do you want to build, preserve, or change? Good? I want you to think about something else. Running over here, that's kind of a weird stage. How would you do that? Where would you start? Building culture and driving change of culture is actually quite simple if you give it focus and attention. So, my question for you, actually, if you give it the right attention, culture will lead to increased productivity, improved team and personal satisfaction, and will help you build a better customer experience and drive growth for your company. Sound good? Who's on board? All right, because this is going to be a call to action thing. Maybe, I don't know, my surprise at the end. So, do you have the pulse on your culture? We have about 45 minutes, and I appreciate you all coming. I respect your time. So we're going to spend about 20 minutes demystifying culture. What is it? What's a good use case? Where would you start? And what kind of things would you drive change in? Then I want to give you about 20 minutes. Leverage the passion and the energy of the people at your table. Have the conversation. What are they doing? How can you learn from them? Build a connection. And then we'll spend about 5 minutes to close. But I realize 45 minutes is not enough time for a rich topic like culture. You agree? So I'm going to find an opportunity. How can we carry this conversation after this session? How can we carry it forward? How can we help each other? Sound good? So let's talk about it. Does culture drive results? There's a company, the Queen's University Center for Business Venturing did a study over 10 years and studied over 100,000 employee surveys to answer the question, does culture drive results? Does culture quantifiably drive business? Here's what they found. Companies that had an engaged culture had a 65% higher share price increase. They had a 30% better customer satisfaction scores, 15% greater employee productivity, and 26% less employee turnover. And if you're in I think there's a few people at customer success here. If you're in management, if you think your CSMs are not getting called, wake up. They're getting called all the time for other jobs. This stuff is important. Beyond driving the business results, we have to keep our people engaged. And without it, you can fail. Lincoln Murphy, one of the top customer success evangelists, says, customer success without a customer culture is destined to fail. Gartner did a study and spoke with HR professionals, and less than a third thought that their organizations had the culture to produce the results that they needed for the future. That same study found that those same HR executives felt that only 10% of their organization actually understood their culture. So what to do? We know it's important. You've felt good and bad cultures when you're in there, but it's vague, it's ambiguous. We don't show up on work on Monday and plug a USB port into your head and say, welcome to the culture reader. You have a 64, show up on Friday for your reprogramming. That's not how it works. You may be sitting there and say, that doesn't apply to me, it applies to them. Well, I'll tell you, if you're a startup, SMB, mid-size, global enterprise, anything, it applies to you. So imagine if you are in a startup company. You have 20 people. You're starting to get product market fit. You have to hire 20 people in the next year. You better pay attention to what your culture is going to be like because it can dramatically change. You're in mid-market. We're going to go sell to the enterprise. How are you going to realign your culture, your customer experience to that customer with a different set of expectations? Or maybe you're in the global enterprise. You have a software on-prem solution, you're going to subscription, and you're going to SaaS, cloud delivered. Big change. Believe me, I know that one, I'm living it. You can drive culture change, each one of you. Now you could say, I'm a CSM, I'm an individual, how am I going to do that? Or maybe you're a manager or a director, or maybe it's a CEO's job. It's all of our jobs. 3 things. Number 1, make an effort. Turn the talk about culture to do about culture. If you decide to make an effort, which I hope you're going to do today, you're ahead of 90% of the others. We're talking about culture. Second thing, work with intention. Whether your scope is small, individual contributor, or manager, or larger for the full company, focus. Figure out the things you want to change, how you're going to change them, and focus all of your activities around that. And third, yes, we are dealing with human beings. We are dealing with teams. We have emotions. There's unpredictability. Iterate, enjoy. Look at this as a process to engage your team, to build a better environment for your team, to make people enjoy their jobs. So iterate. So what is culture? Our culture is awesome. We have free yoga. I got lunches on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we have a beer tap over there. It's on right now. And we have colorful walls. We have beanbags. We got beanbags. Culture is not things. What culture is, it's a set of values. It's that underlying set of assumptions, your fundamental beliefs. Those are the things that drive your behaviors. And those behaviors are the things of how we engage our customers. How do we engage each other? How do we prioritize? What's important to the organization? What do we measure? I know everybody in this room knows what it feels like when you have a bad culture. And you know what it feels like when you have a good culture. Raise your hand. You would have it? You know what it is. But how many also have a hard time articulating it? I know I do. And I've been working on this stuff for a long time. The way that I like to think about it is look at those things. How you engage, how do you work, how you prioritize. Some examples. How does your management engage your team? And how does your team engage your management? How do you make decisions? When there's conflict that arises, how does it get resolved? If there's emotions, are they positive? Are people being authentic? Or are they negative? So think about that, but yet if you're still saying, I am still confused, I would be too. I like to use examples. So let's pick one. Zappos is a great case study. Most of you probably heard. What I love about Zappos is they have a very well-defined set of values and culture. And they see it as a strategic advantage for their business. And they have some very simple approaches to how to articulate it. Let's take a look. Deliver wow through service. Embrace and drive change. Create fun and a little weirdness. Be adventurous, creative-minded, pursue growth and learning. Be honest, open and honest relationships. Let's talk about a few of those. Deliver wow through service. They're defining what they do. They're providing a service. And they are expecting, they value the above and beyond. They want something extra. Also consider that with embrace, create a little fun, a little weirdness. Be adventurous, creative-minded, open-minded. They value your individuality. They value your unique personality. And they want you to show up and deliver wow with that. Deliver with your personality that above and beyond something unique. Do more with less. They're competing in a retail market, very margin tight. They value people that value the dollar, what they spend. It's important. Embrace and drive change. Be passionate and be determined. They value people who are energized and motivated to see problems and take initiative on their own to go drive and fix them, drive improvements. If you like the status quo, I don't like things to change. Is this going to be a good job for you? They're setting very clear expectations. So if you can think about this and think about our jobs and think about how Zappos has created a fabric of understanding where the whole team is making decisions and prioritizing on some common set of values. Imagine the speed and the velocity you get out of that when everybody's kind of doing that independently without direction and driving the strategy and getting out products and helping customers. Imagine what that would do with your customer success motion as you orchestrate value across all your stakeholders, across sales and services and ops and product. So where do I start? Again, make an effort, work with intention, and iterate. Give it real attention and focus. Who today is going to decide to do something? I'll put you on the spot right now. It's a workshop. Who can okay, I got a couple. We'll raise it at the end of the day. Who can decide to do something? It doesn't have to be everything. Pick one thing and get people together. Again, it's fun. Have the conversation. What are the values and behaviors? Don't worry about being perfect. Just have the conversation. You're already adding value. Build a management team and support. Depending on the scope of what you want to change, drive, build, preserve. Who are the people that you want to involve? Make sure the person at the top, by the way, is on board. Because if your leader of your team, your group, your company is not on board, you're going to have a tough challenge. But assuming you do, you're making that effort. Let's move on. Define the culture and values that you want. What is your desired state? Again, the process is as important as the result. And what are you going to do? How are you going to change it? I'm going to talk about some of the drivers of how to change culture in the following slide. Work with intention. Focus on those things. Agree to a plan. How are you going to do it? I'm going to talk about some things that you can think about and iterate. Again, you're engaging your team, whether it's a staff meeting, extended staff meeting, workshop, all hands, whatever it is, engaging the team in the discussion. So let's talk about the drivers. I always try to talk about this in formal and informal methods because they're both important. Imagine what we're doing here is changing the daily behavior, what you do every day. The small things matter, sweat them. Communications and training, number one. You've got the team together. You've defined what you want to be. You define your culture. You define that one thing you want to change. Write it down. Share it with your team. Communicate it. I know people are going to want to print it out and put it on the walls and think we're done. Don't do that. Engage in the communication. Use the formal and informal. The formal would be those emails that go out, the quarterly announcements, the all-hands reviews, the ops reviews. Communicate it. The other thing you can do is engage in brown bags and discussions. Again, discussions, not as scalable, but what you do is you get people on board, they get buy-in, and they get commitment as in they're part of the solution. And roll it out in the training. Promoters and detractors. With any sort of change, you have to manage this. Manage your bell curve. There will be people that are exemplify the future of where you want to go. And there's going to be people that are laggards. They're going to drag your feet, and they may straight up resist. And there's going to be a bunch of people in the middle. Your promoters, highlight what they're doing. Be specific around why you're acknowledging them. Put them on the pedestal. Make sure people see publicly why what they're doing is what is good. They're defining good. Detractors, interesting one. You have to manage that as well. I heard something saying your culture is defined by the lowest common denominator of what behavior you're willing to accept. Who's been in an organization like that? It's great. One person is just pulling everybody down. That can define your culture. Okay? The other thing you can do with detractors, flip them. It's kind of a hard one. I've never done that one myself. But if you can take a detractor and turn them into a promoter, very powerful. Again, if anybody does it, I haven't done it myself, but I've read about it and it does work. Challenge. Recruiting and hiring. The easiest way to do it if you have recs, right? Changing people is hard. So bring in the right ones. We all talk about cultural fit. Raise your hands. Who talks about that? Anybody? I know I do. A few? Just getting everybody warmed up to be engaged here. But how many of you have the statements like Zappos does in your job descriptions? How many of you setting that expectation before you talk with them? This is what we expect of our people. Is this going to work for you? Secondly, when you interview, how many of you actually have people test on those? Test for the value, the characteristics, and traits that you want that are important to your organization. Great questions to ask. What would you do in this scenario? Can you give me an example, so you're customer-centric, of when you put the customer's needs in front of your own? Tell me about your management style. Tell me about how your colleagues would describe you. Test. Don't forget onboarding. The training, remember, when they get on board, make sure you reemphasize why they're on board and what's important to you. Set the expectations. Build that unified fabric. Rewards and recognition. Again, formal, informal. The formal ones, how do you get a raise? How do you get a promotion? How do you get rated as good? Right? These are the formal, most likely HR systems. The informal ones are equally important, and I actually think are more powerful. Because you may go, I'm not going to change the HR system. I don't want to do that either. Cisco's HR system, I'm not changing that. But I will tell you what I do is I look for moments to re-emphasize your values. Anybody ever see the email that goes out? Bill did an awesome job on Citibank. Yay, go Bill! I look for the moment to emphasize, Bill, we really appreciated you took a risk and you put their needs in front of ours, and it paid off. It built loyalty, and the customer came around and turned around and ended up buying more from us. Thank you, well done. These are little things that take a couple seconds. Look for the moments to re-emphasize the values, both on the positive side and the detractor side. Process and organization. This one's going to be very specific to what you're changing, so I'll just leave you with 3 things to think about. Number 1, find that thing. When I talked about that series, when are you going to revisit this? Commit to it. We have an extended staff meeting every month. We're going to put in every one or every other thing. We're going to do a checkpoint with the team. In the all-hands reviews, we're going to do it. Or in the ops reviews, we're going to make sure to do it. We have a culture section in every agenda item. Every quarter we revisit. Keep it top of mind. The discussion itself will lead to positive results. Second one, we're in customer success, customer centricity. Are you a CSM, or are your CSMs empowered to drive what they do? What are the processes and policies they have to follow to do their jobs? if they run into a big issue, can they grab an engineer under the right circumstances? Or do they have to go through a bunch of approvals? Look at processes and procedures. They represent your values and your culture. Are your metrics centered around your success or your customer's success? I know all of us are a little guilty there. Is it? Right, so think about those things. Lastly, organization. If you're manager, director above, probably not the ICs. You can use organizational changes to drive alignment between orgs, especially if you have a promoter as the leader. Employee surveys. SurveyMonkey around. SurveyMonkey people here? I saw they were right on the corner. Surveys. Great way to get scale. Great way to check on the pulse of the culture. Great way to trend. But a couple things. Make sure you think about the questions you ask. You have to be very specific in what you want to get out. Make sure it's actionable. The other thing you can do here in the survey is use focus groups. Do checkpoints with certain people. Again, it's not as scalable, but actually gets buy-in and a few other benefits that are different. Maybe use focus groups for detractors or the people in the middle. Design it intelligently. Again, work with intention. Socials and events, have fun with this. This is fun. You're talking to your team. How can we create a better environment? How can we serve our customers better? How can we make it more engaging and more rewarding for you? Put some intention behind your events. Make their beer bust. Celebrate the customer heroes, the people that did what's right for the customer. Have a diversity fair. Anybody Salesforce people here? Salesforce just had a diversity and equality party, a big one. It's pretty clear what their position is and how they're articulating that to their employees and to the community. Have fun with it. It just takes little tweaks of things you're probably already doing to build in messaging. Things, the things, we can bring them back. Here they are, they're back. I didn't get rid of the bean bags. We have the things. If you want to promote a healthy lifestyle, have the yoga. That's awesome. Have the boot camp in the parking lot. If you want to promote collaboration, create those collaborative spaces. If you want to have fun, have the colored walls, have the ping pong, have the foosball. I'm pretty good at foosball, by the way. Have the foosball and create that environment to promote fun. Put your money where your mouth is and create those spaces and that environment for your team. So let's move on. So now we're going to move into the you section. This is when now the work's on you. I get to take a rest. So we have 20 minutes. What I want to do is have each of you talk with your tables, the two things. What are things that you have or want to change, and how are you going to do it? How have you done it? What's worked, what hasn't worked? So we have 20 minutes. Go ahead and start talking. I know one of you, there's always someone that will take the lead. I'm looking at you, whoever you are. Start the conversation. I'll give you checkpoints. We're going to use Slido, so pull Slido up, and we're going to be posting the best ideas into Slido and voting on them towards the end of the discussion. If you have questions, raise your hand. And if you're sitting along the back wall, grab some people along the back wall. You can have a conversation, they talk too.